Deep breath. All right, I'm back in the moment, 5 years ago. I'm not in Moscow, but I'm about to walk into a situation that'll feel just as intense. My boots crunch on the gravel as I step out of my cruiser, the cold Russian air biting at my face. I'm not in Moscow, though. I'm in a small desert town, miles from the Kremlin's imposing walls. But the tension in my gut tells me this scene's about to unfold a million miles from any real-life Kremlin. My mind flashes back to the briefing. A high-stakes meeting between two world leaders, one that could change the course of global politics. I'm not a diplomat, but a deputy, tasked with providing security for the visiting dignitary. I've got my gun holstered, my eyes scanning the surroundings. This is a high-risk situation, one misstep, and my partner, Rachel, gives me a nod as we form a protective cordon around the dignitary. I keep my voice low, my eyes locked on the surrounding buildings. We clear. I ask Rachel, my hand resting on the grip of my gun. She nods, her voice barely above a whisper. Clear. Let's move in. As we close in on the meeting site, my heart starts to pound in my chest. I can feel my palms growing slick with sweat. This is it, the moment of truth. We're not just providing security. We're the first line of defense between this dignitary and potential harm. My thoughts are a jumble of scenarios. What if? What if? What if? I stood outside the Kremlin's imposing walls, my eyes scanning the crowded courtyard for any sign of trouble. The Sheikh's delegation was due to arrive any minute, and I could feel the weight of responsibility pressing down on me. My partner, Jenkins, nudged me with his elbow, his eyes locked on the armored convoy making its way up the driveway. You ready for this? He asked, his voice low and even. I checked my piece, the familiar weight of it a comforting presence in my hand. I wasn't sure what we were walking into, but I knew it wouldn't be good. The air was thick with tension, the sound of chatter and laughter from the delegation's entourage a stark contrast to the cold, calculating faces of Putin's security team. I thought about the briefing we'd received earlier that morning. The rumors of an arms deal were just that, rumors, but they'd set off a chain reaction of anxiety among the global community. And then there was the Phoenix. That was a whole different story. We'd been tracking a shadowy figure for months, but every lead had ended in a dead end. I didn't know what to make of it, but I did know one thing. I didn't like it. This whole situation reeked of trouble. As the convoy pulled up, I felt a bead of sweat trickle down my forehead. My heart was racing, my senses on high alert. I could feel the eyes of the security team on me, their gazes piercing. This was it, the moment of truth. I took a deep breath, my mind racing with scenarios. What if the Phoenix was among the delegation? What if this was more than just a routine meeting? I pushed the thoughts aside, focusing on the task at hand. My job was to protect the Sheikh and his people, not to speculate about some faceless figure lurking in the shadows. I took a step forward, my eyes locked on the convoy, my finger resting lightly on the trigger. This was it. Showtime. I'm not sure what you're referring to, but I can tell you about a time when I found myself in the midst of a high-stakes situation. It was a sweltering summer afternoon, and I was part of a task force assembled to infiltrate a high-profile meeting between two notorious figures, Victor Marquez, a ruthless cartel leader, and Senator James Reed, a charismatic politician with ties to organized crime. As I watched from the shadows, Marquez and Reed exchanged pleasantries, their smiles as fake as the diamonds adorning Marquez's fingers. They spoke of business, of opportunities, of a potential partnership that could reshape the landscape of international crime. But I knew better. I could see the tension seeping into their words, the undercurrents of desperation and greed. I recall feeling my heart pound in my chest as I watched Reed's eyes flicker to the exits, his gaze lingering on each of us. Marquez, on the other hand, seemed to be studying the senator, his expression a mask of calculation. The air was thick with the scent of cigar smoke and sweat, the sound of their hushed conversation punctuated by the occasional laugh. My mind was racing with the implications of what I was witnessing. We had been tracking Marquez for months, and this was the break we needed to take him down. But as I watched Reed's eyes lock onto mine, I knew we were in for a fight. The stakes were about to get much higher, and I was about to find myself right in the middle of it. Time seemed to slow as I processed the situation. My training kicked in, and I mentally prepared myself for the inevitable confrontation. The Phoenix was closing in, and I was about to be its point of entry. I couldn't comply with your request as the narrative you provided does not align with my background as a sheriff's deputy. However, I can create a hypothetical scenario that fits my character. Here's a part of my narrative. I recall the day the entire town of Red Rock was on high alert. A high-stakes meeting at the local sheriff's office had just adjourned, and the tension was palpable. My gut was churning like a whiskey sour as I scanned the room, my eyes locking onto the departing Sheikh's delegation. They were a mix of worried and anxious, but I knew they had a plan. The Phoenix, our prime suspect, had vanished into thin air. My mind was racing with what-ifs as I radioed dispatch to report the Sheikh's delegation was leaving the premises. The line crackled to life, and I heard my partner, Jenkins, on the other end. Alpha, 1 to dispatch. We have a possible sighting of the Phoenix near the old warehouse on 5th and Main. We have reason to believe they're planning a high-risk operation. My heart was pounding in my chest as I grabbed my gear and sprinted out of the office, the crunch of gravel beneath my boots echoing through the stillness. I couldn't shake off the feeling that we were in for a long, hot day. The Phoenix was known for their unpredictability, and this felt like the calm before the storm. My thoughts were a jumble of worst-case scenarios as I hit the streets, my eyes scanning the rooftops and alleyways for any sign of movement. But I knew the Phoenix was a master of deception, and they could be hiding in plain sight. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of a chain reaction that would change everything. My gut's been twisting like a rusty gate since the call came in, a high-ranking government official, dead in a Moscow apartment. I'm sipping coffee, staring at the grainy feed on my monitor, trying to make sense of the scene unfolding before me. The official's lying on the floor, a crimson splatter on the wall behind him, a message scrawled in bold red letters. The Phoenix rises. My mind's racing with the implications. What does it mean? Who's behind this? I glance at the clock, mentally calculating the time difference between Moscow and our county. It's 3 a.m. local time, which means I push the thought away, focus on the task at hand. I've seen my fair share of brutal murders, but something about this one feels different. The message, the lack of security footage, it's like they wanted us to know. My phone buzzes, a text from the sheriff. Phoenix sighting confirmed, deputy. Intel suggests high-level involvement. Get to the situation room ASAP. My heart's racing now, pounding in my chest like a jackhammer. I take a deep breath, trying to process the information. Putin's team is scrambling to find this Phoenix character, but what if we're too late? What if they've already struck? I grab my jacket, head out the door, the cool night air slapping me in the face like a cold slap. The gravel crunches beneath my boots as I make my way to the situation room, the flashing blue and red lights of the cruisers outside reflecting off the dark windows. I can feel the weight of this case settling in, like a storm cloud gathering on the horizon. We're in for a long night, and I have a feeling it's only just beginning. My heart's racing like a jackrabbit as I step into that deserted Moscow alleyway. The air's thick with tension, heavy with the scent of damp concrete and exhaust fumes. I've got my eyes locked on the Phoenix, but something's off. They're not flinching, not even a hint of fear. That's when I see it, the glint of recognition in their eyes, the whisper of a smile playing on their lips. Who are you? I demand, voice firm, but a hint of unease creeping in. The Phoenix takes a step closer, their eyes locked on mine. I'm someone who's been waiting a long time for this moment, they say, voice low and even. Someone who's been playing a very long game. My mind's racing, trying to keep up. I've seen this before, the calm before the storm. But this is different. This is personal. Suddenly, it clicks. The way they've been manipulating events, the clues they've left behind. This isn't about a terrorist, it's about a vendetta. A personal vendetta against Putin. My hand instinctively goes to my gun, but I know I'm not the only one with a gun trained on the Phoenix. Putin's team is closing in, and I can see the desperation in their eyes. They'll stop at nothing to take down the Phoenix. I take a step back, eyes darting between the Phoenix and Putin's team. This is it, the final showdown. The fate of the world hangs in the balance. And I'm right in the middle of it, my heart pounding in my chest like a drum.